Okay, so you ain't gonna answer my truck question. How about a different question then?
Yeah, okay, so long as it doesn't break the fabric of reality.
Who's the best of the worst?
The best of the worst? Huh. It's actually a good question. I could make a whole series about this, go into each of the, quote, bad guys. Let's do it! Great idea, Golic.
Thanks, Daffy.
David, but whatever. Let's start with the Astartes legions of the Horus Heresy. One group specifically.
The Beaky Gits?
Not quite. Well, yes, though more wingy gets. The Night Lords have a long history of psychopathy, psychotic episodes, and brutality. This video will very likely be hidden by YouTube due to the subject material and some of these pictures. Night Lords are a bit of a horror-inducing. The Night Lords are most famous for an incident before the Horus Heresy where they went to a planet, kidnapped a lot of children, and then skinned them alive on a live audio feed for the planet to hear, threatening that worse would happen if they didn't comply with the Imperium. The Night Lords are fear incarnate. They instill nightmares in people before they even contacted the worlds. They strike from the shadows, cut at the roots, using the axe as a beacon to display what they're willing to do. But weird thing is, in doing all this fucked up shit, they had one of the fastest compliance rates and the lowest death rates of any legion in the Great Crusade. Because they did such gruesome stuff, people would look at their name and just raise their hands and give up before fighting even began. The efficiency of that legion was insane. Of course, what went wrong with them, we need to talk a little bit about their Primarch, Konrad Curze, whose name I've misspelled almost every time I've tried to write it down. Konrad is the Primarch of the 8th Legion, coming from a planet that was barely touched by a dying star, worked by men who barely scratching by in mines, while the sun barely touched them and left them cold. He was scarred coming out of his gestation capsule because I guess the pods didn't actually protect them at all. And right out the front gate, he could see the future and he felt he needed to make those futures come about, unlike Sanguinius, who could do the same thing and said, let's change that now. Now, his legion joined the traitors not because they liked chaos, but because Konrad saw a future where he joined the Chaos Legions. In all honesty, he really needed some therapy, a sit down, and a chat with the Emperor about what the future sight meant and how to go about it, but might have helped him a lot there, seriously. But nobody said the Emperor was a good dad. Now, with the basic idea of Night Lords on the mind now, let's reiterate something. They are terrible people. They are psychos who like killing, but they also hate chaos. The Night Lords were designed to be by the Emperor to be lawbringers, to exact justice on those that did wrong, and who embodied that the most. Well, Jago Sevatarian, also known by other names including Sevatar, the Condemned, and the Prince of Crows. He was the first captain of the Night Lords. Might still be? I'm pretty sure he's dead, but like many first company captains, he wore Terminator armor and led elite Terminators of the Legion. But one line he said, which we'll get back to in a moment, is very fitting. I am justice. I am judgment. I am punishment. From here on out, this discussion will spoil the short story The Long Night by Aaron Dembski-Bowden. Sevatar was captured by Dark Angels. He was kept in a cell, actively absorbed light to make it so he was in absolute darkness, like being in the deepest parts of a cave. They fed him nutrient paste that's described as, and I'm quoting here, bland chemicals and sticks to the tongue like wet sawdust. Sevatar would joke about how it was the best thing he's ever tasted each time he was given it, once a day for 15 minutes. It was better than the last. Which, fun fact, that can actually happen even in when in a prison cell. But Space Marines don't really care much about taste. I imagine the Night Lords even less. The scene describes Sevatar finds comfort in the dark, as it allows him to not make attempt to process things around him. But he didn't find relief in his head because his brain kept pounding against the bone in his skull. From this description, my first thought would be a concussion, but I'm also looking at it from a human standpoint, and Astartes are not human. Not anymore. I don't know if they can get bruises on their brains, but this pounding feeling is definitely from his latent psychic powers. He only found relief when he started talking to someone. A young girl would talk to him as he sat in his cell, Altani being her name. Every day she talked to him, saying, "Jago, are you still alive?" Because he apparently told her that he wouldn't live long. During the opening of the story, the scene describes Jago as being in a lot of pain, his nose bleeding. But when Altani talks to him, despite her not being able to see him, he tries to clean himself up, wiping the blood from him to be strong. She tells him that she can tell he's in a lot of pain and that he's dying. He laughs, definitely knowing it to be true, but that he's not gone just yet. He asks her what he wanted, or what she wanted from him. She responds that the fact she just wants to talk because she's lonely. Astartes know this feeling very well. It's why some chapters like the Emperor's Spear act so close, and will go barbaric if shit hits the fan. But they also make funny tombstones and statues of each other when they die. He tells her that his pain is bad, but that talking to her and only her voice makes things a lot better. She asks him if he's capable of hearing other voices, to which he simply says yes and no, which implies the uncontrollable psychic power he has, which might also be able to read just raw emotion only. Later on, Jago admits that he can hear people's thoughts. He can use it, but he doesn't want to be able to. He even tried to get rid of it, which I can imagine a lobotomy could probably do that? Maybe? The two joke with one another, giving friendly jabs, having their telepathic talk. Jago learns and accepts things in their talk, while he also taunts his jailers, the Dark Angels, Deathwings, during their conversations. Altani asks about his title, the Prince of Crows, and what a crow is, and there's a line in this book that made me realize something. The dead girl is silent for a time. He can feel her in the back of his mind sometimes, even when she says nothing. Her presence is like a sweep of invisible searchlights. He knows when he waits beneath the ghost's unseen gaze. Sevatar thinks she's a hallucination, his own degrading mind and psychic powers destroying him. He doesn't know she's a real person who lives and breathes, even if she just barely alive, with what we'll find out. The next page or two, his guards are found out to be librarians trying to read his mind. Altani admits she's not dead, that Jago simply thought she was. He realizes that she's an astropath, learning how to be used by the Dark Angels to guide through the warp. Through their talks, Jago discovers his only friend has been crippled by the First of the Choir, a psychic branch who are used for many reasons, mostly astropaths and farseers. Altani tells Jago that they're going to take him soon and execute him, because they think he's falling further into chaos. So she cuts off the cell's defenses and gives him a chance to escape. He books it, sprinting down the halls, ducking and weaving through enemy lines. Through slaves, he grabs a weapon he may need and stops for a moment and looks into a pod. Nearly a coffin, a small girl covered in scars lies there, motionless and silent. "So this is what you look like," he says to her through his own telepathic mind. She's silent, not wanting to talk about all the scars. She looks over him with her mind and says, "You look tired, Jago." He smiles and he runs again. Down the hall, he finally makes his way to his endpoint. An old man he stands before. Overseer... I can't even pronounce that. It's on screen right now. Jago looks at him with hate and rage. He doesn't use the knife. He uses his fists, beginning to swing his powerful hands into the man who hurt his friend. And then he says the line, "I am justice. I am judgment. I am punishment. And I surrender." He remained in that cell for a very long time. Silence for many of those hours. But he got a smile once more with 5 words being said. "Jago, are you still alive?"
That's real pretty, Daffy.
It's a favorite of mine, honestly, and that's why Sevatar is one of the best of the worst. Now, shove off.